record button. So let's see oh, the other thing I want to make sure to say before we get in the middle of this, and I totally forget, is that about a month and a half ago, a group of us, an advisory group from the Inside Outside Network, put out a position statement, and we've started collecting resources that kind of follow that position statement, which speaks specifically to getting outdoors during COVID, during this pandemic. And as a follow-up action step to that position statement, we're running a series of webinars this month. And here is the information if you want to register. We did the first one yesterday. Yep. Thursday, yesterday, and it went really well, and we have 2 more coming up, so you can find that information there. And the position statement you can find on our website. There's actually, I think our website is in pretty good shape to be a great resource for all of you and for lots of different topics. So the last link I'm going to share right now in here. And all of these links will be part of the meeting minutes that go on the website, but just so you have it now, this is the resource page. All right, so I think enough from me. Now I would really love to turn this over to Johanna and Jada, just to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself. And if you want to tell us a little bit about your program and maybe what you've been doing already this summer. And then we'll come back around and we can, and I think the thing that would be super helpful before we go off into breakout rooms is to hear like 1 or 2 gold nuggets that you feel like everyone should know about. Okay, and actually before I have you guys introduce yourself, does anyone have any questions? Sometimes I get going on these meetings thinking that people are already well versed about what the network is and what we're doing. So will you unmute yourself and just let me know if you have any questions? Okay, and if not, we'll launch in. But know that this is a really informal platform, and we get more out of it when people contribute questions and share suggestions and resources. All right. Jada, would you like to get us started?
Sure. Hi. And thank you for inviting me to come be a part of this webinar. My name is Jada Berg. I live in Vermont, and I'm the director of the Sweet Clover Nursery program at Orchard Valley Waldorf School. And we are a birth to 3 program. So we have children 6 weeks up to 3.5. And we're part of a much larger Waldorf School program that goes up to 8th grade. But our program is fairly new. We started this program 5 years ago. I've been directing the program for that time, and before that, I've been teaching for about 20 years, and I'm a trained Waldorf teacher as well. So our program, let's see, we basically stayed open during the COVID closure. We closed for a week. We did a lot of planning, and then we opened as a classroom for children of essential personnel. And during that time, the administrative director of the program and I did a lot of research and made sure that we were staying abreast of all the new information that was coming out with the Department of Health and the Agency of Education and the guidelines and all those other things to make sure we were doing the best that we could. And we ran the essential classroom for the entire time that schools were closed, and then we reopened June 1st. And we have been open since then. It's been going really, really well. And we've moved our program entirely outside. So we're outside about 95% of the time. We eat outside, we sleep outside with the children. The only thing that we don't do so much is diapers and toileting outside. We just found it a little bit easier to go inside for that part. But we've been outside the entire rest of the time unless there's a lightning storm, which actually happened a few times. But it's been going really, really well. And I am happy to give more information about details about how we were doing. Would that be good to do now?
Let's, this is great to get us started. Thanks, Jada. And if we let Johanna introduce herself, and then we can come back and see if folks have specific questions too. Thank you. That was a great introduction.
Okay.
Johanna, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. So my name's Johanna Booth Miner. I own and operate a center called Live and Learn Early Learning Center. We have children from 6 weeks old to 13 years old. Um, and we did close on March 17th, and we reopened on June 1st as an emergency childcare facility. Um, when we reopened, the classification in New Hampshire for essential personnel was very, very broad. About 40% of our kids came back, but we are 100% outside. Our babies are probably, like you said, Jada, about 95% outside. We sleep outside. We eat outside. We, we have 25 acres, so we have tents set up everywhere and outdoor classrooms. We're planning going into the fall. We're trying to start a private school for K through 4, which is supposed to open in 2 weeks. It's going to be 100% outside under a tent till the building's built. And our children will remain outside the majority of the time. We, in 46 years of doing this, this is the first time I have ever closed. So we even stay open during snowstorms. So this, it was a big change, but the longer I'm open, the more comfortable I am with what we're doing is right. Did you want me to go into any more detail, Liza?
I think that's really great. Thank you. This is helpful just to give people a context of kind of what your programs are and where you both are located. So I'd like to take a minute just to see if anyone has questions that they want to ask up front.
If it's okay, hi Liza. I just want to ask Jada. You mentioned that you take toddlers back into the classrooms for changing. I'm a toddlers teacher. I'm based in Long Island, New York. Do you have to maintain a ratio? How many kids do you have in class? I mean, if one teacher is taking 2-3 kids, are you guys the rest? Do you have another teacher that stays? How does it work exactly?
When we reopened, our numbers started off very low. One of the things that we did that was helpful was we started off for 2 weeks of doing half days, and then we started with reduced hours. So we were originally 7:30 to 5:30, and we moved to 8 to 12, then 8 to 3. Now we're doing 8 to 4, and the beginning of September we'll do 8 to 5. And I think we'll stay at 8 to 5 and not go back to 7:30 to 5:30. That felt like too much. Many of the other programs in our area are actually closing at 4, so we're doing a little bit more than they are. Also, when we first opened, our numbers were very, very low, and then we've increased since then. And we expect to be mostly full by September. So that's sort of the background information to say that it hasn't been an issue so far. Our numbers have been very low. And when our numbers get back up and increase, we may take a few children in at the same time if we need to, or possibly in Vermont, the ratio is 1 to 4 for children under 2 and 1 to 5 for children under 3. But we try to keep it at 1 to 4 the whole time, especially now for COVID. So I think we may end up just taking 4 in at a time if we need to. We do have a floater who's here sometimes, so there are times of the day where the numbers work out fine for us to take a couple of extra or count them in a different classroom if we need to or something like that.
And this question is for both of you around best practices for students needing to wear masks, especially when they're outside, and what your policies are around when it's safe to have the children take their masks off.
Well, I can speak to that. We don't have our children wear masks at all. In New Hampshire, it is not required. and we're running and we're climbing trees, and we have children that have asthma, so our children do not wear masks. When we come inside, we spent the time we were closed redesigning all our classrooms so that there are children can socially distance in each classroom. As a matter of fact, today they're starting a wall and turning my gym into an additional classroom space so that we can split some of our bigger classrooms so that the classroom size remains small and there's room to spread out.
Thank you.
Vermont's a little different. I'll show you the picture here. In Vermont, the governor made wearing masks a requirement for children over 2 if they're developmentally able to wear masks. So in our program, all the teachers wear masks. And in our school, if you look at Orchard Valley as a whole program, our program is one of 3 different programs, but the other programs all decided to have the children wear masks. So there are 2 kindergarten programs, and then there's we call it kindergarten, really it's preschool and kindergarten combined, mixed age group, and then a K-8 program. And those programs all will have the children wear masks. Our program, because our specific program is 3 to 3.5 and under, we made the decision that we don't feel that anyone in our program is developmentally ready to wear masks. I mean, the children, of course, the teachers are wearing masks. So, but the other programs, which are for children, if they're 3 by September 1st and up, because the whole program is 3 and up, those programs all will have the children wearing masks. And what we've seen from the local, information from the local CDC and Board of Education is that children under 10 are much less likely to spread the virus. However, it's really important for them to practice wearing the masks. So for preschoolers, even if they're not really 100% able to do it, it's still practice and it's still helping. And the school guidance, so this is not for preschools or kindergarten, well, it's for kindergartens and up for grades programs. If the children are 6 feet apart outside, then they're allowed to take their masks off, or if they're doing exercise. Our whole school has a COVID task force that I'm a part of. Someone from each program is there, so I'm aware of what we're doing in the other programs, but we've chosen not to do it with our specific program because the children are so young. For the preschoolers, though, Vermont has preschool and childcare licensing regulations and then school licensing regulations, which are very similar but slightly different. And this is one of the areas where there's slight differences.
Thank you. And also kind of similar to the masks, the idea of physically distancing children when they're outside, is that something both of your programs are adhering to outdoors as well?
We're doing it differently in each of our programs. One of the things that is really important to us is to find language that helps the children to understand it from a developmentally appropriate place. So I was visiting a program recently where I kept hearing the teachers say, "Don't stand close together, be apart, be apart." And I felt as an adult that that was going to be giving such anxiety to the children and that it wasn't safe to be together. So our plan is to find a better, more gentle way of sharing that information. I know that at the summer camp that the school has been running for older children, they had hula hoops set out where every child had a hula hoop to play in, or they had their own blanket and that was their space. And so the conversation was, oh, everybody can go to their spot right now. And so it was geared more around, how can we make this fun? How can we make this a fun part of our day? The same as we have a road that we have to cross to get to the woods. So every time we get to that road, we stop and we say, all right, we're going to stop, look to the right, look to the left, look to the right, no cars in sight, now it's time to go. And it becomes just a routine part of our day instead of a fear-based thing. We probably won't really be doing that with the toddlers and the children under 3 because they can't do it and it would not really be good for their mental health to try to have those conversations. We are trying to keep them separate as much as possible during nap time, giving extra room at the tables. We might even stop using tables and have the children eat lunch on their stools where they can be separate, but we're not telling them that they can't do it. We're just creating the environment so that they can have space.
Great, thank you. That's helpful.
We also are using laundry baskets. So the night before, the morning early before the children come, we fill the baskets with the materials the child is going to need for the day, so that the materials are already separated out. Each child has a learning kit, for the lack of a better word, that already is labeled with their name. But if we are going to be using a clipboard, well, the clipboard already has their name. If we're going to be using extra paper, they're going to need it for journaling or something, we're going to put that in the laundry basket. So when they pick up their laundry basket, they've got everything they need. Everything that they bring in for the day has to fit in a backpack, and then we spread the hooks out so the backpacks can be distanced. Our camp group uses the hula hoops, just as Jada said, and so that they can have a spot. Our pre-K uses towels, swimming towels. We also have a chlorine pool, which has been a godsend this summer in this heat. So when I called and asked about whether we could open it or not, we were told, well, that's the safest place on your entire property that the children can be. They're in the sun, they're in the water, and it's filled with chlorine. But still at the pool, we have laundry baskets spaced out around the inside of the pool. The children come in, they drop their towel in their laundry basket with their shoes. After each group, we go through with hospital grade chlorine and disinfect, and then the next group comes in about 10 minutes later. So yes, we do what we can. Our toddlers do not socially distance. They just don't get it. Our environment is set up so that there are invitations and areas of wonder spread way out around their outdoor classroom, but it never fails. When one has a wonder, it's like magnet ball. Everybody is drawn to that one thing they have to wonder about. So when we get, infants are much easier to socially distance than toddlers. Toddlers are just into licking each other or something. But we have done a lot of hand washing. They know how to sing about 7 different hand washing songs. And we just talk to them about keeping the germs away. But we set it up as a yes environment because that is really, really important.
Thank you.
Can
I appreciate that.
Can I add one more quick thing to what Johanna said? We also are trying to create a yes environment. I think that's wonderful. And one thing that I've noticed that I think is really important for everyone to hear is how excited the children are to be back. They're so excited. They're so resilient. They're so happy to be here. When the children, when we closed school, hardly any of them knew how to wash their hands. They all came back excited to wash our hands. We have a health check station outside of our yard where the children come in the morning. We do a health check. We ask them questions. We take their temperatures and the children wash hands. We have a sports jug with warm water and a bucket underneath, and each child washes their hands. And they all came back so excited to play in the water and so excited to wash. And I've just been really impressed with how excited and resilient they are. And they haven't been fazed at all about the new protocol or the teachers wearing masks or any of it.
Thank you. So I'm going to put one more question out to the both of you before we head off into breakout rooms. And I got a request to do breakout rooms first by age versus geographical location. So can I ask you all to rename yourselves and put the age range that you work with? And I think you can leave the state there because maybe we'll have time to break up in that way too. But we'll start with this age range. So while folks are renaming themselves, you go into the upper right-hand corner and those 3 little dots there, and you'll see the drop-down menu to rename. The question is around rest outside. You both have talked about that you're napping and resting. The children are doing that outdoors. Could you speak a little bit to how you're doing that specifically now during the pandemic?
Sure. Not everybody has a 12-acre field in their backyard. So we can, and our younger preschoolers are sleeping under the peach tree, and now we have to pick the right ones so they don't hit them while they're sleeping. They're sleeping in the grapevines. Our pre-K are sleeping all the way down our sledding hill, which happens to be shaded by shagbark hickories. Our toddlers are sleeping all the way around the outside of their outdoor classroom, but we're using the toddlers. We actually bring the mats out every day. We use them, we disinfect them, put them back inside, and then just haul them back out the next day. Every other age sleeps on they bring a towel, which they bring in the morning. They use it at nap time. They use it as a activity space, and then they take it home each night. I cannot be the towel police and find out whether the families are washing it at night, but I figure if the families don't open up the backpack, the towel's in the same condition as when it left here. And you just have to kind of pick your battles and not lose your mind.
So for our program, we're also sleeping outside. We don't unfortunately have as many acres of land, but all of our programs, the children are sleeping outside. And when our mixed age kindergartens start back up, they'll also be sleeping outside. So we have a yard, and we have some other space where we can go to, but we have all the children sleeping in the yard. We have purchased right now 2 10 by 20 large event tents, and we're getting a third large event tent that are right outside of our building. So for our infants, we've rolled the strollers and the cribs outside. So the children sleep in their cribs outside until they're 1. And then when they're older than 1, they start sleeping on mats, and we bring the mats outside and we set up the tents similarly as we would a classroom. So we usually put down either a blanket or a tarp, and then we put mats with the children's blankets on top of each mat and any stuffies or any toys that they might sleep with. And then we have, the tent has walls that we'll put up, and usually we'll put them around like 1 or 2 sides, and it's a little bit of a shade break, windbreak, and create some shade. And then the children sleep outside. We've started thinking about what to do when it gets a little bit colder, and I actually taught at a program in southern Vermont a number of years ago. It was a Waldorf program, and the children slept outside all year long, and we're hoping to do something similar. What we did there, that program was a nature-based program, and there was a lot of planning that went into it. So we don't have the luxury of all that planning for this year. We're doing the best that we can, and we've been very close to a nature-based program, and I'm seeing this as an opportunity to move more and more in that direction. So our long-term goal is to build outdoor structures, sort of like a porch that it's not fully enclosed, but it has a floor and it has the half wall and then a canvas or something that can come down. So there is still a lot of air circulation. It's not closed, but there's not as much wind coming through, and the children are a little bit off the ground. Our school is looking into whether we can build some sort of semi-permanent outdoor structures like that. That will probably happen in some of our other programs. I'm not sure if we'll be able to do it where we are, but we're looking at ways to get the children maybe off the ground when there's snow. I'm looking at some sort of like temporary flooring that we can put down, because it'll be a little bit warmer if they can be a little bit off the ground. And we're connecting with some other experienced outdoor educators and winter campers who can help us to navigate that. In the other program where I worked, where the children slept outside, we had these wooden boxes that were kind of like European style cribs. Like there's the box, and then there's I don't know what you call that, the head part that goes over it. And then they put a sheepskin down, and the children slept in the winter with their snowsuits. And then they had sleeping bags, and many of the children had like a down blanket or something with them. And then we would put a sheet over the whole top of it so that it kept the warm air in. And I've also been thinking about getting water bottles for each child that they can have with them in the cold months at nap time to keep them warm.
That's great. That's really helpful. So many ideas, and actually so many possibilities. I mean, I think right now people are feeling just like overwhelmed and like our hands are tied in so many ways. But you know, really, I think if we think of it creatively, there are lots of possibilities, especially outdoors. So I wanna, let's see, it's 12:30 right now. I'd like to take the next 15 or 20 minutes to send people off into breakout rooms. And we, let's see, it's with this group size, it's set up for preschool, toddler, and then elementary age, and then the older students. So I'm gonna open all the rooms and send you off, but if you end up in a room that you wanna be in a different group, just leave that room, you'll come back to me, and then I can put you with whoever else you'd like to be with. So before I open these breakout rooms, does anyone have any questions? And then you'll get a little notice that says, you know, 60 seconds or something like that. And then it'll kick you back to me. We'll all come back together and we'll sort of recap and answer any lingering questions and come up with next steps if that feels helpful for people. All right, so I'll see you all in about 15 or 20 minutes.
Outdoor play. That came up in our group often. Like, how do you let them play together? How do you allow that to happen?
I'll answer that. Our children our children, we will give them a hug because we will not sacrifice social, emotional, human touch in this uncertain time when we really had to remember that we had to use trauma-informed care because these children one day were in school and the next day it ended. And it became uncertain at all times. And I think we have to remember that the children coming back to us have been through trauma. And trauma-informed care places social emotional needs at the top. So when you're playing, if you start with, say, hula hoops, your older children will remember that spacing, and you can encourage them not to do things like a double log roll down the hill. Rather than that, you set up games that are going to be more spaced out. Rather than playing Red Rover, where you all hold hands and you run across and spit all over each other and hang on the hands, you might play Mother May I, where you can spread out across a large space. Rather than wearing a tail and running around and taking each other's tail off, which usually ends up in a wrestling match, you might instead put the flags inside hula hoops spread out in different areas, and then have the children go and grab the flag, bring it to their hula hoop and tag out so another person runs. So you get really inventive with the games you set up for them to be engaged in. And will they come in contact with each other? Yes, they will. And it's my personal opinion, you shouldn't say, oh no, go wash your hands, you've been spit on, you might have germs. And just casually go over and say, hey, this would be a really good time to have a squirt of this hand sanitizer. It might make you run faster. you know what, I think we have to keep it as new normalized as we can.
I think, Joe, if I could add to that too, I missed the beginning of it, but it sounds like just a discussion about, you know, how can we let kids play and how can we keep that safe right now? I've been thinking a lot, and while I was at work with the kids, thinking a lot about, you know, how can we make sure that we maintain this yes environment while still being safe? And there are going to be times where you have to say, you know, no, that's not safe to do right now. But instead of leaving it as just, no, that's not safe, opening that discussion with whatever age children you're working with and kind of having that community discussion of, okay, well, you know, this isn't safe for these reasons. This is what I noticed makes it not safe. But how can we work together to accomplish the same goal or have fun in this same way while being safe? You know, these are the things that I noticed that made your game or your play unsafe. What can we do together to adjust that or to change it? What tools can I give you, you know, to make sure that you can do this, but do it safely so that, you know, your whole day isn't spent telling kids no, 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 and the kids' whole day isn't spent hearing no, 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 no. You're kind of working together to problem solve. And, you know, being an educator in that scenario, I think it just required a little bit more close observation on our ends. You know, we're always observing as educators and always taking note of what's going on, but just kind of observing with a different eye, a different lens, keeping in mind that, you know, things that we've done in the past maybe aren't as safe anymore, and just kind of having that safety lens and being ready to have an open discussion with the kids about what can we do together to make this fun and safe play.
I found that a really helpful comment because in nature play already we involve kids in making it safe, kind, and gentle, and so there's a new level of safety. So it's something that we've already been doing, but safety has different things to consider now than it did before. So that is a really helpful idea for me to be able to build upon what we've done in the past.
I love that you bring in the be safe, be kind, be gentle. We talk about that a lot as well, and that's made a lot of sense, you know, with the kids already knowing that kind of mantra of be safe, be kind, be gentle with each other, with their environment. It really translated well to what we're doing now.
Thank you. I'm looking at the time and we have one more minute left. So I just wanted to ask Jada or Johanna if you had any last minute thing that you wanted to share, and specifically if there was something that came out of your breakout group that you wanted to share with this bigger group.
I have one more thing, which is that I think it's good to remind ourselves that this takes time to figure out how to do it all well, and to give ourselves that opportunity to learn and to grow, and to not feel bad if it feels awkward at the beginning, but to practice it, to give ourselves time to problem solve and brainstorm and come up with new ideas about how to fix things. I found that staff need a lot of extra support right now, and they're great with the kids, but everybody is just sensitive, and we're all sensitive. It's a challenging time for everyone. And so just to give ourselves that extra opportunity. I heard a really wonderful interview recently, and someone was talking about how important it was to build in opportunities for resiliency. So that's been my goal for the next year, is to give myself and give everyone else space to create resiliency. And maybe it's extra time or extra support, but just to do that as much as possible, and just give ourselves the grace and patience that we need to adjust to this new situation.
I love that, grace and patience. Yeah.
I think my final comments would be, remember, we're working heroes. We're out there on the front line when other places aren't. We're caring for children so the economy can begin opening back up, so that, and so we really are frontline workers. And it just means taking a deep breath keeping the candy jar full, giving a lot of virtual hugs, or if necessary, a big squeeze. So we have to celebrate ourselves for being out there and doing this as well. And I think that just as you said, Jada, that resiliency becomes an important aspect to look at.
Thank you, Johanna and Jada, so much for giving your time and sharing what you've learned over the last several months. It's really helpful to all of us. And I wanted to remind folks that the recording will be posted on our website at that link. And I've been trying to take notes as we've been going along, and I'll get the links that have been shared in the chat box into those notes. So though it might not appear later this afternoon, it'll be out there by next week, so you can access it and share it. Thank you.
For the shared agreement that we came up with, if you want to send that out as well.
Oh, thank you. I'm going to make note of that. I put that in other notes. So also, as you're coming up with plans, know that we've been having other conversations, and you can go to the minutes on the website and access the recordings and notes. And thanks, Jada. I'll share that again. Thank you. Thank you all so much for being here, and thank you again, Jada and Johanna. I really appreciate it. It's good to see you all.
Thank you. It's good to see all of you.
Good luck, everyone.
Yeah, good luck and have a
Bye.
good weekend.
Keep smiling.